All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over some iterations of a miles per gallon program based on our textbook, JavaScript 6th edition by Sasha Vodnik and Don Gosselin. And right now, I am in Chapter 3, Building Arrays and Control Flow. I've done one program from Chapter 3 where I used a couple if statements to make sure that the miles per gallon, miles driven, and the gallons used were both within our acceptable ranges. Now I want to add more control flow. I want to run the program so that I can run it continuously, okay? So I've copied everything over so this is the same version that I just had. And we started out with everything in main with no error checking. We saw how easy it was to break the program. Then we modularized the program and wrote individual functions without error checking, and it was still easy to break. Then in our last iteration, we used those two if statements, one in the miles driven and one in the gallons used, to make sure that our values were within range. All right. Now in this example, we're going to add a while loop. So this will be a very short lecture. We're going to add this to demonstrate the ability to repeat statements. All right. Nothing so far has changed. All right. But I do want to change the way that this looks. Okay. So I'm going to grab everything from here, these 4 routines. I'm going to grab everything from those 4 routines. In fact, I think I only need the 3 routines. And I'm going to copy it to the clipboard, and I'm just going to paste it into a new file. All right? You'll see why in just a minute, hopefully. But I'm going to change this to just miles driven without a value, gallons used without a value, and MPG without a value. So what I'm doing there is I am declaring those variables, but I'm not initializing them. So the value of each one of these variables right now is undefined. If I would do an alert of miles driven and or gallons used and or MPG, their values would be undefined. All right, I'm going to go in and add 3 more values in here right now, 3 more variables, I should say. First, I'm going to add a string. Now, I'm going to add first a Boolean flag to run program repeatedly. So this will allow the user to run the program again and again and again. So let's call it again. And we'll set it equal to true. We'll assume that you want to run the program again and again and again. Then we'll have a variable that will hold a string that will hold the run program again response. And we're going to call that response. We'll set that equal to the empty string, so it has no value. Whoop, I want to put an E there, though. All right. And then finally, we want one more variable, which will be a character, to hold the first letter of response. Missing the E there too. So I'm going to basically come in here, and I'm going to say, do you want to run the program again? And I'm going to ask them to enter a yes or a no. But asking them to enter a yes or a no, I have no guarantee that they're actually going to enter a Y or an N if that's what I ask them to do. They might enter the word yes, etc. All right? So this is what's been added so far, are 3 new variables. Right there. A Boolean flag, so it's something that'll be true or false, that says whether or not we want to run the program again. A string variable, which will hold whatever we answer to run program again. All right? And then first char, which will be the first character of whatever we put into here. All right? Hopefully that made some sense. So I'm going to say here while I'm going to say here while again, and just so you know, this is a shortcut for while again equal true. Most developers put that in because it's less typing. So while that's all the way that it is, now I'm going to remove this. So now I can grab all of that stuff that we did before. Whoops. I'm just going to put here input miles driven. Input gallons used. Calculate MPG. And of course, we also want to display all of our information. And I didn't copy that, so I'll have to put that in here. So this will be display all inputs and outputs. All right, so we will call here display info. And we will pass to display info miles driven, gallons used, and MPG. All right, that'll work now, and we're getting there. But the problem is we haven't asked the user if they want to run the program again. So that's what we're going to do. Ask user if she or he wants to run program again. All right, so that response is going to be equal to, now we're going to do a prompt, but we're not going to put a parse int because we're asking the user, run program again. And we're going to ask them to enter a Y or an N. All right, and we'll assume that they want to run it again, so we'll default it to Y. So if they want to, they can just hit enter there. All right, that's fine. But then they might have typed in the word yes instead of the word Y, instead of the letter Y. So we want to here grab just the first character of response. We want to both grab and we want to uppercase just the first character of our response. So we're going to say first char, our first character, is equal to response dot char at 0, which means first character, dot to uppercase, which means now take it and put it in uppercase. So if that character is not Y, end the program. So if first char is not equal to Y, morning, then we want to end the program by just setting again equal to false. So I will check this and I will see whether or not I made any errors while I inputted everything. So let's run it. 210. Okay, so there's a problem in there. It didn't like our MPG, so let's check. View our page, whoops, not view our page source. Inspect, and let's go over to the console. And it says display is not defined in our script file in line 90. Because that was supposed to say display info, not display. All right, let's try running it again. All right, we'll accept the defaults. There's our value. Now it says, do we want to run the program again? I'm going to type in yes in lowercase. Notice it runs it again. I'll put in 400 and I'll put in 15. I get my right gallons. All right, I'll put in, yes, of course. And again, we could run it again. Let's see if it still handles our non-numeric input, and it does. We'll run it again, and we'll put out of range input. It changes that. Now we're done, so we can just leave it blank, but typically we'll just put in an N for no, and we're done. So what I have shown you in this iteration, because we're just about finished with this iteration, all right, so what I have shown you here is what we have added to our program in version 2 or version B or whatever you want to call it. We have added 3 new variables. A Boolean variable, remember Boolean is true, false, so again can either be true or it can be false. All right, response, which is going to hold, we're asking the user, do you want to run the program again? It holds the user response, and then first char, which is just the first character of that user response. We put everything into a while loop, which meant run it while again is still set equal to true. And then we called all of our routines. Then we asked the user, do you want to run the program again? If they just hit enter because Y was the default, boom, it ran it again. If you put the word yes in there, then we took that value, we just grabbed the first character, we converted it to uppercase, and we checked. As long as that first character was Y, we again is still true, but once it is not Y, again becomes false. And we got done. So that's it. So again, we came in here, and in our first iteration, we came in here and we did this. Then in our second iteration, we came in and we did this. We're going to come back with one more iteration that I'm going to write a little bit later, where we're going to add an array to the program. So I'll be back to go over that with you shortly.